G'day, in this video we'll be talking about differential sap test analysis, and I love these tests. I think they're brilliant and we should be using them more. Before we get into the video, my name's Teal Simmons. I run Agresol, which is a regenerative agriculture consulting business. We use differential sap test analysis to help us determine foliar sprays, and we use foliar sprays to provide the nutrition needed for plants to resist pest and disease. And so we have other videos on this, but really quick. With correct nutrition, plants don't get as sick, and we can eventually wean ourselves off pesticides, fungicides, bactericides with correct nutrition. And so this is the tool that we use to determine the correct nutrition, and it's brilliant. So let's start with the idea of why do we test nutrition for our plants? And so the only reason why we test is to inform us whether or not we should apply fertiliser or nutrition. And so really there's three different tests. There's soil tests, there's tissue tests, and then there's sap testing. All of which have their places. Soil test is great when you don't have a crop. You can't test a crop if there is no crop. And so prior to the season, getting a soil test, really good for determining what nutrients there are in the soil, what we do need to apply. However, there's a few limitations in our soil test. Specifically, it shows what's in the soil and not what the plant is absorbing. Things like our cations, you might have a heap of calcium, but if you also have a heap of potassium, they might antagonize each other, and so the plant might not absorb one or the other. Or with our trace minerals, things like iron and manganese, they exist in multiple different oxidation states, and so the soil test will pick up on all of those, but the plant can only absorb a specific oxidation state. And so this is where it's important to be using our actual plant tests. So they are our tissue test and our sap test. Tissue tests are good, but they're quite limited in a number of things. Specifically, it doesn't tell you what the plant is absorbing at that moment. It can give you a good idea, but things like iron, so iron 3, so it's in an oxidized form, it can be absorbed by the plant. On a tissue test, it will say that there's heaps amount of iron in it, you're good. But if it's in iron 3, the plant can't actually use that iron. It's stored in the leaf, but not actually used. There's a few other examples with the tissue test. A sap test overcomes that, and it tells you exactly what the plant has in its sap that can be used. And so, as a tool, really precise tool, sap tests are fantastic to know exactly what the plant has at that particular time. So when you pair a sap test with a soil test, makes a really good tool for understanding what nutrients the plant has available and what's actually taken up. Now we can take that a step further, and what we'll be talking about today is a differential sap test analysis. And so these are more accurate than everything. They're timely, so we can make timely applications. You can't quite make an application based on a soil test in mid-season because you don't know what the plant has available to it. They're also predictive, and so a differential sap test analysis can predict an oncoming deficiency before it actually happens by up to 2 weeks, which is fantastic. If your crop doesn't ever experience a deficiency, you're really meeting your yield potential. And so I'll explain how this works. Each nutrient has a different ability to be translocated in the plant. Nitrogen, for example, translocates from the older leaves to the new leaves. And so if the plant is starting to become deficient, it will go, okay, let's take the nitrogen out from the lower leaves, put it into the new leaves, because the new leaves have a higher ability to photosynthesize than the lower leaves. The lower leaves might be a little bit shaded out or old, and so they don't photosynthesize as well. So the plant will move that nitrogen up to the plant. But if we pulled a differential sap test analysis, which is we take that leaf and then send them off to the labs to different things, different tests, and then compare them, we might get this back. We might go, the old leaves, even though they're in the ideal range, so this is our ideal range, it's in the ideal range, but our new leaves have a higher nitrogen content in them. If we only had one or the other, we'd say, no worries, the plant has sufficient amount of nitrogen, but this tells us the older leaves are translocating nitrogen to the new leaves. There is an oncoming deficiency despite the leaves having sufficient amount of nitrogen. So this plant currently won't be affected by a deficiency, but if we leave this, it will be. And so what we can do here is we can get out into the field, spray a foliar spray to make sure we correct this and prevent any yield losses. Likewise with calcium, calcium's the opposite. Calcium cannot be moved once it's locked up in plant tissue. And so typically it will come up in the soil through the phloem. It'll come up the plant, say it goes into the old leaves. Once it's in the old leaves, it's stuck. It's not moving anywhere. It's not like nitrogen. It can't be moved up into the new leaves. So if we get a situation like this, where we just pull an old test and go, oh, cool, we've got heaps of calcium. It's fine. No worries. That's not correct, because our new leaves have a deficiency. There's something that's blocking that calcium from going up into the new leaves. And so this would suggest, even though we have heaps in our old leaves, we need to apply some calcium up there. Otherwise, there might be a potential for implications with a calcium deficiency. This is really important for our horticultural crops, where calcium is a driver of quality. And so using this test, we can really predict and make an accurate prediction of what we need and when we need it. Likewise, because it's a sap test, it's better than tissue test. It's more predictive, and it tells us what is actually going on in the sap of our plants. So as I said at the start of the video, at Agresol, we can do differential sap tests for you. So if you're interested in going deep into nutrition to make sure your plants are set up to fight against pest and disease, so you don't have to be applying sides to fight against pest and disease, then get in contact with us. You can go to our website at agresol.com.au to see how we can help you achieve that. Awesome. Thanks for watching. My name's Teal. Cheers.